someone could be coming out at 20 and someone could be coming out at 35. And at the time when you were like coming out and you both first experienced a gay club, you may be 15 years apart, but you're having the same experience at the same time.
Have you ever heard of the concept of the gay age? I mean, it was kind of just explained to you in that beginning section, but the gist of it is each person has a gay age, which starts from the moment that we come out. So if I came out yesterday, I would be a baby gay and I would be like 0 years old. And if you came out a decade ago, then right now you would be 10 years old, even though in like real life we would be the same age. I think it's this really fascinating concept. And for a really long time, I was like, yeah, totally bought into it, totally agree with it. But the more I sit with it, the more I think that maybe it's a little problematic. But that's just me overthinking things, isn't it? Is it? Maybe it's not. Anyway, let's not get into that now. Let me instead introduce you to this week's guest, Koby Falks, who is an adult entertainer. Oh, I'm not actually sure if I'm supposed to say adult entertainer or porn star. Like, is porn star acceptable? I don't know. Maybe I should have asked Koby this. Anyway, he is an adult entertainer from Australia who started going out in the early 2000s at one of Melbourne's most iconic queer clubs, The Market. And it was in this space that he really got to step into his queerness. He was liberated on the dance floor, open, free, and most likely shirtless as well. Now, before we get into it, if the whole gay age thing has piqued your interest, I will be writing about it in this week's issue of Queer Word, my newsletter, which is all about queer language and its history. So if you haven't already signed up, you will find all the details in the show notes, and I would love to share my thoughts about the problematicness of the term gay age, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on the idea as well. Right, my name is Kay Anderson and you are listening to Lost Spaces, the podcast that explores lost queer venues and the memories that they've left behind. We kick off this week's episode talking about how being in the club is kind of like a bit of a religious experience. Why don't we get into it? So you've said that going to the market was like a religious experience for you.
Correct, yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, apart from the fact that I was there till every Sunday morning instead of church.
And you were getting on your knees and you were,
I was doing a lot of community service. So it was a bit of a religious experience for me. So when I first moved to Melbourne, because I was from sort of like, I grew up in outback Queensland and then I grew up in sort of farmland Tasmania.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So for, the way I got to Melbourne was I joined the Navy shortly after high school. And after a small stint in the Navy, I left to move to Melbourne. And I didn't really have exposure to the gay community growing up, as you could imagine, being in outback Queensland or in Tassie.
And Tasmania, like they only legalized homosexuality in like 1999, didn't they?
Correct, yeah. It was like, so while I was in like primary school and early high school, being gay was still actually illegal. I mean, no one was probably prosecuted, but the fact that it was still illegal at the state meant that you could be, prosecuted for being gay. So, downloading gay porn on the dad's computers was a bit of an issue.
Well, I mean, like, regardless of where you are, I don't really recommend doing that on your mum and dad's computer.
No, well, I didn't know how to clear the browser at the time either. So this is back in, Windows 98.
Okay. Actually, let's just abandon everything that we've talked about so far. What happened? What was the conversation when your parents found this porn?
What did I do? I just made up some sort of story that I clicked a link and, it was like a phishing website or something. And all like at the time I was really addicted to the show The X-Files. So I was trying to look up The X-Files and instead I came across the XXX files.
That's some quick thinking. But also, did they believe you?
I don't think so, because it was a repeat occurrence. So.
Damn you, Gillian Anderson.
Yeah, well, David Duchovny more like it.
So was that your coming out then?
No, it wasn't my coming out, but it was sort of the road to coming out, definitely.
So when you did come out, they were like, oh, what a surprise.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, when I first moved to Melbourne, I was obviously working in hospitality. I didn't work in gay bars, but I worked in straight bars in the city.
Mm-hmm.
And
actually, can I just stop you there?
At the time,
I'm making a habit of this already. We're not even 5 minutes in. You'd left the Navy, you'd moved to Melbourne.
Correct, yep.
And were you out at this stage?
Yes, I was out at this stage. So I sort of came out to my parents just before I left for the Navy.
And did you move to Melbourne in I'm going to become this massive gay person?
Not really. I was based down on the peninsula of Victoria, probably about 2.5 hours away. And I used to catch the train into Melbourne on the weekends. So I knew Melbourne quite well, and it was close to Tassie as well. So I just decided to move into the city when I left the Navy.
Okay. And was there a plan then other than moving there?
Not really, no. Well, the plan was kind of to find work. So I ended up working in hospitality, just because Melbourne has a big bar scene. So it was pretty easy to pick up and full-time working in bars. Mm-hmm. And but I was working in straight bars because even though I was kind of out, I wasn't out. I was probably 20, 21 at the time.
So explain the difference to me. What's the difference between being out and being out?
So I was out to my parents and stuff, but I wasn't really out where in terms of if people were talking to me that I would be like, now I'm like, this is my boyfriend or blah, blah, blah. We're meant to hear. I'd still be quite, guarded and policing myself. And because at the time as well, we didn't have the push with marriage equality or the visibility that LGBTQ has online now. So it was still a bit of a it was still a big step to kind of be out.
Yeah.
But then I sort of discovered the Market Hotel as a gay club. And I would usually finish my shift because the straight bars always closed early. They always closed around 1 o'clock. So I would kind of close up and then I would be kind of G'd up from the night of working because, I don't know, we used to get on it at work. So first thing I'd do when I walked into my job is usually pour myself a drink.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It was that kind of bar, it was like a divey. You walked up the stairs, it was like a divey bar in the city. It was really loose. All the staff would be 20-something. We're all drinking. The manager, I think, was 24, so it gives you some idea of the place. And we'd all get on it. Anyway, I would then I'd catch a taxi and I'd head over to Commercial Road to the market. And I pretty much did that every Saturday. So I guess that's why it sort of became a bit of a religious experience for me, because for the first kind of 2 years that I was in Melbourne, I was doing that routine of finishing work, going to the market on a early Sunday morning around 1, 2 a.m. and getting on it until midday because I'd had Monday off. So it was sort of the start of my weekend.
But the religious element, the thing that made it this religious experience, it wasn't just the day of the week that it was on, it was the higher plane.
Yeah, it would sort of be the one chance where I would walk in and I could just completely be myself. So all of those guards that I had and all of those kind of like checks that you put in place, they would kind of leave at the door and I could just kind of go in and be myself. But not only that, but I could sort of like be more than myself, I guess. And by that was what I mean is that I could let loose and I could just, you know, go kind of crazy in terms of dancing, getting on it, chatting to people, getting to know a whole heap of people from a like broad range of ages as well. Because I think in the heteronormative way, you had very structured, like growing up, you're kind of, it's very structured in terms of your social circle, and it's usually marked by key events like birthdays, you know, like weddings, bachelor parties, that sort of thing. And you sort of move through with similar age group. Whereas when I walked into the market, you know, because we didn't have apps and things at the time, it was sort of what we would call a safe space for the community, for people to meet. It meant that there were people of all ages from like, you know, 18 through to like 50 partying in the club. And so like it was the first time I sort of got exposure to meeting people from different age groups. And with that came with different experience, you know, people with different life experience were able to give me advice. So as I start to meet these people, I started to sort of realize that there was a lot more in the gay community. And I guess that's where the religious experience came out, because you had this blend of like really cool house music at the time that I miss. You know, like now the gay clubs play very poppy, very mainstream music, but there was always like a house main dance floor and then there was like a trance room. And then just sort of like meeting these people who would also come each week, you know, so like we would sort of congregate, I guess, at the market on a Saturday night. And so you would see the same faces. And yeah, I guess that's where it sort of became that religious experience of being able to go meet these people who I wouldn't see during the week, catch up with them, have this kind of out-of-body experience where you kind of get high or you get drunk or whatever, listening to music, letting yourself go, and sort of just, yeah, being your complete self. I sort of guess you were surrendering to the night in a way.
Okay, we will talk about this more because I do want to dig a bit deeper into this. But for now, let's go back a step. Do you remember first hearing about the market's existence? Like, why was the market the place that you chose to go to?
So I ended up meeting a guy at my bar. He came in. I just started talking to him across the bar, and he started showing up kind of each week, and I'd kind of give him some free drinks and stuff, and we just started hanging out. And then one night he was like, hey, do you want to like come with me? I'm kicking on to this place. It's called The Market. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll come check it out, rather than sort of go home. So I went with him, and that's how I found The Market, was through this sort of guardian angel.
But okay, so your relationship with this guy, was it flirty or was it just completely friends?
No, he was genuinely just like a friendly guy, and he's actually still one of my close friends today, like 20 years later.
Nice. But so was he like, this is a gay place, we're going to a gay place, or did he let you find that out when you got there?
No, I think he did tell me it was a gay place. I think he could see that I was gay, even though I wasn't like out, but
out,
you know,
like you said.
Yeah, he could see that I was gay, and I had a feeling he was gay. And we kind of made it like, hey, I'm not really like keen on hooking up or anything, but he kept showing up, and we just kind of became friends at my work because he was just a regular. And so yeah, it just sort of developed from there, which was interesting. I said, oh, you know, he's genuinely just kind of a friendly guy, and can see that obviously I've got no idea what I'm doing. So
how nice.
So felt like, hey, you know, come with me. I'll introduce you to this other side that I had no idea about. So
yeah, but there's like an hour, maybe half an hour between you first being offered to go there and you going there. So you don't have that whole period of overthinking and talking yourself out of it, and then talking yourself back into it, and then talking yourself out of it. market, you just get offered like, we're going to go to the market. Do you want to come? And so you get in a cab and you drive over to Paran, get into the market. Do you remember any of the feelings on the way over?
Oh, I do remember being like a little bit nervous and apprehensive because, you know, the Market Hotel, especially when you pull up, is quite a big building. It's the Emerson today. So I think it's like three stories. It's like 2 big levels, and then there's like the rooftop bar, and it used to have security out the front and like, you know, a red carpet roped off kind of thing. So it looked very like, you know,
pretentious.
And they had like, they had like the members line and then the general entry line. So, yeah, you know, like it looked like an intimidating club kind of thing. It's like, oh, am I going to be let in? Of course, now I know they let everyone in. But, you know, like at the time. So, like, you know, it was quite nerve-wracking. And then obviously when I would get there around 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, it's kind of peak time as well. So it was like super busy and super packed. It wasn't like walking in there. It was kind of half full and filling up. It was like, you know, peak time. So it was a bit overwhelming.
So then talk to me about how it feels once you've stepped through the door. So you've gone through the line, the security guards let you in. This is your first time in the market. What does it feel like?
I don't know, just sort of very overwhelming, I think, because, you know, seeing people with the shirts off in a club, you know, like that was like unexpected. I didn't know that you could do that.
Aww.
Especially from working in straight clubs, you know, where I was working in hospitality at night, straight clubs. And I think like it was just, it kind of, people don't really get why the gays take their shirts off in clubs.
Oh, like, I don't get it. Can you explain it to me?
I don't really get it either, but I feel like obviously, I mean, to me, you almost say it's like a little bit of freedom. You know, you're kind of stripping away the confines of what is the heteronormative thing of that we have to kind of abide by these societal rules, and instead we can kind of be a little bit hedonistic, we can be sexual, we can kind of be free, we can kind of strip it off, you can keep it on, you can kind of do whatever you want, really. If you want to wear some leather, you can. If you want to dress up in drag, you can. If you want to take your shirt off, you can. You know, like there are people from all walks of life, cut from the community, you know, that have different reasons for going to the club. And one of those big reasons was obviously to meet other people to hook up with. So it's quite sexually charged.
We're still talking about this shirts off thing because I'm not over it.
Yeah.
So you're firmly camp, yes, take shirt off.
I'm firmly camp for you to do whatever you feel like you need to do.
But what if I'm pressing my hot, sweaty body against you?
Well, you know, perfect. That's what I like. So,
yeah, I don't know. I can get what you're saying, and I totally understand the freedom and like what difference does it make really to me if you take your shirt off or not. But when you're in the middle of a dance floor and everyone around you is touching you with their sweaty like lower back, that's kind of not fun.
But I mean, at the same time, you know, you don't have to be in that pocket either. There are different sections in the club, and you know, like
you tell me you're kicking me off the dance floor.
I don't see it any different to putting on a big wig and having, you know, like gorgeous sequin dress.
Yeah,
and
that's
being
annoying
on
as
the
well.
Dance floor, scratching up.
Maybe no one should be near me on the dance floor. Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah.
It just depends what you're looking for on the dance floor, I guess. But.
Anyway, sorry, I cut you off. You were talking about making out with people. Usually I want to hear more about that. I don't know why I cut you off.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, like we didn't have apps at the time. I think, you know, you kind of had Manhunt and Gaydar on the web browser. And that was something you checked when you got home. We didn't have iPhones, or I think the iPhone only just came out, but it was like iPhone 1. And wasn't in Australia. So, you know, like going to meet guys, you sort of had very limited options. And one of those options was nightclubs. So there was always an element of sexual buzz in the club because people were there to go out, get on it and kind of hook up for the night. And I think, that's why like shirts kind of came off as well, because it was a little bit like, hey,
you could be going home
kind
with
of
this.
keen and frisky.
Yeah,
Exactly. So
that first night when you walked in and you saw everyone with their shirt off, were you like, I'm going to take my shirt off? Or did you need some time to adjust?
No, I needed time to adjust. Definitely. I wasn't like I just walked in and, all of a sudden was like a completely
here are my
person.
nipples. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it took me some time. And I always remember like being on the dance floor and people would come up to me and be like, why you got your shirt on? And you'd be like, oh, and then you would like kind of get an hour in and you'd kind of have
pluck up the courage.
Dutch courage. And you'd sort of take your shirt off and people around you be like, yeah, clap, like, oh, he's taking his shirt off. And it was a bit of a like moment kind of thing, like, yeah, I've taken it off. It was sort of like being inducted, I guess, into the wider group. And then you sort of felt like you're doing something naughty because you had your shirt off inside a club. So it felt good. It kind of like, it felt a little bit rebellious in a way. I mean,
even though everyone else was doing it.
Exactly. But it just, I guess because it was like, I was like, if I did this in a straight club, I'd be kicked out straight away. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like you take your shirt off at like the motel, which is a place I used to work as well down in South Melbourne, you would be kicked out. But here it was almost like you can take your shirt off and be accepted for who you are. And I'm kind of literally exposing myself. Like I'm literally like putting my body on the line here in front of everyone. And yet I'm sort of being celebrated for doing that. So it was a completely different experience.
Oh, and you never looked back.
Never looked back. Now I'm in a jock strap usually.
Should I ask follow-up questions about that? No. Okay. So back to this first night. You went with this guy that you'd met in your job. Did he look after you that evening, or did he just kind of like disappear once you got there?
No, he looked after me, and he used to, it sort of became our thing. He would come into work at my bar in the city on Saturday because he worked in hospitality as well. So he would finish a little bit earlier on Saturdays. His thing was he would come into the bar with me because he worked in the city. We'd kind of get liquored up because I had free drinks for him and I had my drinks behind the bar. Knew I finished around 1 and then we'd head to the market, and we kind of did this for like a year or two consistently. So, and I should say, like he was in his late 30s, so he's my age that I am today, and I was in my early 20s, so there was quite a big age gap. But I think that was one of the things I sort of started to realize is that like age gaps isn't really a thing in the gay community. Like when I was going back to that point of there being like in the club a wide range of people, but I think the difference where heteronormatively you've got these kind of markers in your life with your friends through key events like weddings, people after school, the next thing is getting married and then they're having kids and they buy a house and they sort of have this linear thing. Gay people also have, key markers where they obviously come out and they get a boyfriend.
And first time they take their shirt off in a club. Yeah.
Exactly. But the age of when that happens isn't as linear as thing. Someone could be coming out at 20 and someone could be coming out at 35. And at the time when you were like coming out and you both first experienced a gay club, you may be 15 years apart, but you're having the same experience at the same time. So I find that really interesting.
Yeah, I find that really interesting. Armistead Maupin, the author, he has dubbed this the gay age. Like you have your actual age, the thing that your birth certificate dictates, but then you have your gay age, which starts from the time that you come out. And so everyone's gay age is different depending on when they came out.
But you have a similar experiences. But see, I actually think that is fading today.
Because everyone comes out at the same time.
Well, we have marriage equality now. So, there's no reason why, like for me in high school, I wasn't out and I had to go and find a group of people who were out, like at the Market Hotel, where I got exposure to a whole sort of subset of the community. And now with marriage equality, like obviously it's something we needed, but it does change the social landscape because now being gay is normalized and accepted in wider society. Kids these days can go through that normal linear event mark of having friends. When their friends are hooking up and getting engaged, they can be hooking up and getting engaged. You know what I mean? So now they can stay in that pocket of their friends circle from high school and move through the linear timeline. They're not in need of what I was at the time of having to go and find, acceptance somewhere, like in a safe space. They can now just move through society in a normal linear fashion because it's accepted. So that...
Do you think, I think there's still some friction. Like I get what you're saying and I do understand that there's greater acceptance and that there's more pressure on queer kids to follow a heteronormative path. But not everyone is in an environment where they're accepted. So there are still some young people that are going to struggle.
But when I talk to a lot of younger gay guys who do contact me, and I'm sort of dating a boy at the moment. His name is Tice, and he's 24. So for me, he's a Zoomer. I'm a millennial. So seeing him is a big difference. But like, I think the main thing is because you're right, not everyone is accepted. And we still do need these spaces because not everyone can move through that heteronormative linear fashion. But the thing is, because it is kind of ingrained now in wider society that they're not aware that these places exist. When I was growing up, I had to go looking for the places because I had nowhere.
Yeah.
Whereas for them, it's front and center now. They don't realize that there are places specifically for them to go and find if they choose not to do that. So do
you think it's that they don't know or that they just have more alternatives or they feel more comfortable accessing more mainstream spaces?
I think it's a bit of a blend of number one, that they don't know. And this even extends to like beats, like cruising grounds and stuff. Like, the first time I used to hook up and have sex was like cruising because I lived in the bush, and it was kind of, you went to a place in the bush where you knew men cruise and you just kind of learnt that. Like nowadays, like when I chat to gays, they don't even know about cruising because they just, well, why can't you just hook up in high school kind of thing? Why can't you just... because people are out or bi or whatever in high school now because it's not a big deal. They're exploring sexuality in high school, whereas I kept it hidden. So they're like,
but see, this this thing about high school though, like say you're in a class of like 100 kids, there's only going to be like 2 or 3 choices, right? Like,
well, it's interesting because I, despite being bullied and being kind of not out in high school, I actually had quite a good experience in high school because I was a bit of a jock. So I kind of fit into
what was expected of a boy.
Kind of skated under the radar kind of thing. And I had a good relationship with a lot of my teachers where, I've caught up with them 10, 15 years later when I go back home. And they update me on like the changes since I've been at school because they're still teaching there. And you're right, like only a certain percentage of students out of 100 are going to actually be gay or that. But they're like, oh my God, the landscape is so different now. You have kids who are like, they're gay one week, then they're bi, then they're pansexual the next week, then they're aromantic, then they're like not like, they're going through the whole spectrum of things in high school because obviously with social media, they get exposure to all these different subsets a lot easier. Whereas, I just thought there was gay and there was straight. I didn't know about all these different things that have sort of emerged over the last 10 years or whatever of different sexualities in the spectrum. And so I guess when you get exposures with that as a teenager who's exploring your sexuality, it's only going to be natural that you want to dip into each one to see which one fits you. So they're kind of moving through. So even though they may actually just be gay, it's like, well, why can't I explore this other thing that maybe is that I've seen online or like heard about, and there's a small group of kids that are doing the same thing, and you move through, because in high school everyone moved through different little pockets. So now that is kind of a thing.
Yeah, and tries on different things. Yeah, and totally get you. That makes total sense to me. I guess the point I'm making is you can like identify with a sexuality, but until you get to practice that sexuality.
But that's what I'm saying is that for me, I guess I was sort of exploring my sexuality by going to gay clubs, because that provided me a safe space to do that. But kids today, they can do that in the high school yard.
But if there's only like 3 or 4 other gay kids, then there's less opportunity. That is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I guess. But at the same time, like, you're not going to get kicked out of school now if you have a boyfriend for the week in high school.
Yeah.
You're not going to be vilified if you're pansexual for the week and hang out with whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
So actually, kids generally, in a heteronormative way, teenagers do explore their sexuality at high school because they're getting their first girlfriends, they're getting to first base, they're getting to second base. You know, it's all a big thing. Whereas the gay kids were kind of doing it off to the side or had to wait until they left high school. I guess now they can explore their sexuality in high school. So for them, the idea of like a nightclub being a place where you explore your sexuality isn't really a thing, because they can do that now in high school.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean by like the landscape's kind of changed a lot. Like it's shifted, because where I was having this religious experience of discovering myself in a safe space, if I was in high school today, I could be doing that in high school, you know. So by the time I leave year 12, I'm pretty confident I know who I am. So in a sexual sense. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I'm just saying it's different to my growing up. So when it was illegal to be gay.
Yeah.
So
it's a funny thing. I don't know if I kind of liked not having to think about all the relationship crap in high school. It was kind of nice to just be like, I'm just going to keep my head down. I just like stay out of all this shit.
Yeah, I was completely removed from it because I wasn't, you know, hooking up with, I didn't have a girlfriend who was then hooking up with the guy, you know, all the high school drama kind of thing. But I guess now there is that drama, and it extends not just in the high school yard. Like I remember my teachers being like, oh, you know, the bullying now online,
of course,
in group chats and stuff, it's just relentless because, you know, if you got bullied at school, when you left the schoolyard, it kind of stopped. And you kind of had that momentarily. Yeah, but now they're like, it's just constant because kids get home on their phone and it's like Snapchat stories or like, you know, Instagram, whatever, just like group chats, WhatsApp, like constant bullying or messaging even outside of school. So in some ways, like I kind of feel sorry for them because I feel like I had it a little bit easier, even though like sexually I was repressed as a gay man in high school. I didn't have everything else that comes with it. And to be fair as well, like I didn't have all this information coming in about different subsets of sexuality. I was just left to work it out myself. Yeah. Whereas today, you know, you've got information from everywhere. How do you make a choice? How do you know what you fit into? It's really hard.
Yeah. So we're all fucked in different ways, basically, is what you're saying.
I know, I'm being spit roasted.
Brilliant. Great. That's my one takeaway from this conversation. If we could go back to the club, I think I want to ask, this thing that sparked for me, right, was when you were saying that took place for a year or 2 years where you and that one guy, he would come to your bar just as your shift was ending. You'd get in a cab, you'd go to the club. You'd go to the club every week.
Yep. That's
really exciting sounding to me. But at the same time, I can't imagine doing that like anymore and not being like, oh, fuck, are we going here again?
Yeah.
Do you think that happens anymore? Do you think it's just a thing that's unique to a time and place?
I mean, it obviously means like a certain person. Like for me, I guess I enjoy nightclubs and I would be a raver because that's something. And I still enjoy going out, even though I'm close to 40. Like I'll still head out to clubs because
don't let that ageism creep in here. It doesn't matter that you're close to 40. You still enjoy it.
Absolutely. And look, I love getting off my face at the club. It's always a fun night. So,
but you couldn't do the same club every week for a year, could you?
No. Back then it was obviously you didn't have much choice, so that's why you always kind of ended up going to the same place.
Mm-hmm.
And because you were going there, other people were going there, so you got to see familiar faces.
Oh, yeah. And there's something really reassuring about, like, I know what I'm doing on Saturday night, like, regardless of what week it is. I know what the plan is. I know where everyone's going to be. But at the same time, there's something really dull and boring about
that. Well, I never found it, I mean, like, towards the end, yes, but at the time, no, I didn't find it dull and boring because, there was enough stimulation going on to keep me occupied.
Oh, tell me more about this stimulation. What on earth could you mean?
Well, it was just like, because you are going to the one place kind of thing, you do get to know people and then obviously it attracts new people. And that's where I started to hook up with guys, and have those sexual experiences that would end up being more. And I think it's where I met one of my first boyfriends at the time as well, at the market. So
this leads me to ask a follow-up question around,
mm-hmm.
Okay, the conditions are you're seeing mostly the same people every week. The crowd is familiar to you. You end up sleeping with one of them. You then, like, it was fine, but it wasn't something that you want to repeat. And then you run into them again the following week. How do you deal with that?
I mean, at first, I feel like there's a little bit of awkwardness, but then I sort of started to realize that, like, this whole casual sex element was just something that was kind of around the community that you could kind of just hook up and have sex with someone and it really just be a bit of a transactional thing as opposed to a, something that you had to continue with and explore. It was like, there's a hot guy, he's into me, I'm into him, we can have sex, and it not really mean anything. And actually, generally, most of the time, we'd have the gay handshake and you'd kind of become mates afterwards. So you kind of...
Wait, is there an actual handshake? Do I not know about this handshake?
There definitely is one when I was in boarding school. So this whole thing of like, sex with no strings attached, NSA, sort of became like, oh wow, okay, this is fun. So now I can go out, get sloshed, I can hook up, have sex, and I don't have to like do follow up. This is great, whereas my straight mates are fucking dealing with the fallout of having gone to spend all this money on dinner with chick and nothing's gone through, and then they've been like working them for 3 months just to get, and then it all falls over and you're like, oh well, mate.
Well, okay, so does that mean that you are usually the person that's like, yeah, I don't want to see you again? Or are you the one that gets your heart broken?
No, not at all. I guess, like, for me, obviously, I'm a porn star, so I'm a little bit more promiscuous and I put myself out there a little bit more than what others do. But I wasn't always like that. So, for me, I was very reserved and I'm a bit of an introvert, especially in my younger years when I wasn't so confident.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it was a lot of people approaching me, kind of thing. So I always found it hotter because I'm a bit more sub. So I always found it hotter when a guy would come up to me and be very direct than the whole me trying to approach them kind of thing. Yeah. So if you ever want to get in my pants, just come up to me and be like, you're coming with me.
Dear listener,
like, okay, this take me.
Steps. But okay, but like, how long did it take you to learn? Because it took me a really long time to learn that, like, you can have sex and then like you don't have to be friends afterwards. Because it wasn't even necessarily that I thought we were in an instant relationship. I thought, well, if you like me enough to have sex with me, then you probably want to be my friend as well. And it took me a really long time to figure out that's not the case. They don't want to know me at all.
Look, it actually didn't take me too long because I was already cruising in my younger years, out in that when I was like bringing up in my teenage years in sort of like Tassie and stuff. So I was already down low, but hooking up with guys by going to beats and things, and then I would see them around and we would just ignore each other. So there was already for me quite an established thing of hooking up with someone and it being quite transactional and self-contained. Because I never had the whole boyfriend thing in high school, the girlfriend thing. Like my experiences were always kind of at beats. And that was kind of my ground level intro into sex. So for me, the whole casual hookup thing, I didn't actually find it that hard to wrap my head around because I was already quite used to that. I just saw the dance floor as now this is another cruising ground that I can go cruising. And when I make eyes with someone and they come up to me, I know it's on and can leave it at that. So
interesting. But you would always wait for them to make the first move.
Yeah, I guess I would always find it hotter, or like I'd be a lot more turned on when they would make the first move. Generally too, because I was more into older guys as well, and I wasn't always sure if they were into me. So when I had a definite like signal, that was sort of the thing. But I would say that going to the market, my intentions, that was not the first and foremost of my night out was to hook up. That was just kind of like an
sorry
added
to take
bonus.
us here then, sorry.
So like I wasn't going there to hook up. I was going there because I was going to go have fun kind of thing. So, but hooking up was just kind of an added bonus onto the night. So,
okay. And so when you said earlier when we were talking that at the market, it was the place where you got to let go of all the shit and become yourself and be yourself in that space. When you think back to that time when you first started going there and in the months following that very first night, what do you think the market taught you about yourself?
I don't know, really, like, because I don't know if I really got to be myself, but I guess it gave me
hang on then. So you said it did let you be yourself, but now you're saying it doesn't.
I guess it let me be myself in terms of getting to explore different facets of myself to then kind of figure out who I am, if that makes sense.
Okay. So is it like what we were talking about with schools where kids are trying on gay, bi, pansexual? It gave you the opportunity to try on different elements of your personality.
100%. Okay. It was a safe space that then had this kaleidoscope of people that then allowed me to start to dip into different parts of myself to see that, like, you know, is this something that is me or is it not me kind of thing? So what am I like? Because there were also girls at the Market Hotel as well that I would like hook up with on the dance floor. They'd come up and be like, oh, you're so hot. And we'd have a patch. And then I'd be like, and that never happened to me in high school, obviously, because I just kind of removed myself from everything. And I was like, yeah, no, definitely not straight. So, you know.
Nice reminder. Thank you. Goodbye.
Yeah. And then, you know, there'd be like, because I was younger, I sort of naturally gravitated towards the other younger guys in the club. And then I realized, actually, I'm not really attracted to guys my age, or I don't fit in more. And then I sort of navigated more towards older guys. And I was like, actually, I feel more at home with the older muscle daddy crowd kind of thing. And so I got to sort of like start to dip my toes into the different facets and kind of get to discover. So even though I wasn't actually myself, it's because I didn't know myself. It was letting me be myself in terms of getting to explore and get to know me, so that then by the time I'd sort of had my time at the market, I was a lot more assured in my sexuality, in my identity, and the things that I liked and didn't like to then go forward. So, yeah.
Okay. So I wanted to ask you to put yourself in the mindset, like go back in time and think about that version of Koby that first went to the market, that's getting out of the cab, that's a bit intimidated by the red carpet and the security guards out the front. When you think about him, what is it that you admire most about him?
Well, I actually think that, like, for me, I didn't realize what a big deal it was to come out at the time and how brave I was. Because, you know, like, I didn't have, in that era, I didn't have role models. I didn't have people online telling me that it's okay to be gay. I grew up in a state where being gay was illegal. You know, we didn't have marriage equality, so we didn't have what was deemed a normal life. So for me to be 19, come out, and then in my 20s sort of being out in the community, I think, wow, that took a lot of balls. I didn't really realize it at the time, like what a big step it was. But I think, fuck, I had big balls to do that at that age, because I know people who even today are not out, and they have all this, and it's so much more accepted, it's so much more visible, you know, and stuff today, and even they're still scared to come out. And I think, fuck, grow some nuts. I came out back then, it was a completely different landscape, and I come out and, you know, the world didn't end, sort of thing. Like,
yeah. Well, everyone's circumstances are different.
This is true, but I felt like my journey didn't really kick off until I came out.
Yeah.
And by that I mean, like, even my relationship with my parents, like, they didn't get to know the real me when I lived at home.
Yeah.
I felt like it wasn't until I came out that they actually started to get to know the real me, rather than the mask I was putting on, you know, when I lived at home. So for me, like you were saying about the gay age, it wasn't really until I came to terms and accepted that, yeah, I'm gay, that my life really started to begin. And so I guess when I see people who are not out, and like, I'm not forcing people to come out. Everyone has their own journey and circumstances.
Yeah.
But I guess a part of me empathizes with them that you're delaying the start of your life. Like, I feel like once you come out, you then take on a different part of your life that is going to be better for you, even though it may seem worse in the meantime. Like, I've met plenty of people who have come out and lost families and stuff, but they've found family in other means through their partner or their friends and stuff. And I've never met anyone that has regretted coming out, put it that way. You know, they've all, but I've met plenty of people who are very scared to take that step. So, which is understandable.
Yeah,
know?
Understandable, but just sad. Like, well, maybe I shouldn't be feeling sorry for them. I don't know.
I guess I feel more sorry, not for them, but I feel sorry for what they're missing out on that they don't know.
Yeah.
Potentially, you know, because I think that, like, you don't know what you're missing out on if you don't know, kind of thing.
And also, you don't know how huge it is. Like, how do you ever explain to someone who's not had to come out what coming out means? Like, it's just how can you wrap your head around it?
I don't think you can either, because everyone's circumstances is different. You know, I could sit here and talk about how I managed to come out, but it's not going to apply to someone.
Yeah.
You know,
but like with heterosexual people, I don't spend much time thinking about heterosexual people, but with heterosexual people, how do they get their head around it? Like, how do they know the difference between being in the closet and not being in the closet?
I don't know.
I maybe need to speak to more heterosexual people. I don't know.
Maybe. But like, I think for them, I mean, obviously the only way that they can really know is through what they consume in terms of media. So what the media portrays as people coming out, or if they have a gay friend who they've known is gay, and then they've kind of gone through that journey with them, because, you know, because even though I came out later in life, I sort of had some close friends who knew I was gay in high school, but I wasn't out sort of thing, you know. And they saw my journey, so they experienced it kind of with me because they were my like confidant kind of thing.
So they knew Koby like before he took his shirt off in the club and after he took his shirt off in the club.
Yeah. So and before he was a porn star.
And that's us, again. If you loved this chat and you want to find out more about Koby, then why not go and find him on Instagram, where his profile is at Koby Falks. He is also available to find on other parts of the internet, but I will let you sort out how to find that yourself if you want. Right. If you also want to find out more about Lost Spaces, this show, and watch clips from episodes, then you can find me on TikTok and Instagram at Lost Spaces Pod. Right. I think that's us for now. I will see you back here again next week.